هذه إساءة إلى مشاعر جميع المسلمين ولا نرضى بتكرارها مرة أخرى، ونطالب حتى الاتحاد الأوروبي يفترض به إصدار بيان لشجب هكذا إساءات للديانات الأخرى.
Ülkemizin büyükelçiliği önünde böyle bir kepazeliğin yaşanmasına sebebiyet verenlerin NATO'ya üyelik başvuruları konusunda artık bizden herhangi bir haklık bekleyemeyecekleri açıktır. Dolayısıyla İsveç'teki çirkin eylem en başta Müslümanlar olmak üzere insanların temel hak ve özgürlüklerine saygı duyan herkese yapılmış bir hakaret. Eğer hak ve özgürlüklere bu kadar saygılıysanız önce Türkiye Cumhuriyeti'nin veyahut Müslümanların dini inancına saygı göstereceksiniz. Eğer bu saygıyı göstermiyorsanız kusura bakmayın. Bizden de NATO konusunda herhangi bir destek göremeyeceksiniz.
Bekle. Bekle. Aldık.
Rasmus Paludan, a convicted racist, burning the Holy Quran outside the Turkish embassy in Stockholm on Saturday. And it's not the first time. Just 9 months ago, he was at the centre of political provocation in Sweden when he led masses in anti-Islamic demonstrations, also setting light to the Quran. Around 100 people took part in Saturday's stunt, which took place under heavy police protection and further inflamed tensions between Turkey and Sweden amid Stockholm's bid to join NATO. Sweden's government has sought to distance itself from the demonstration, Foreign Minister Tobias Billström condemning the action. In a tweet, Billström says Islamophobic provocations are appalling. Sweden has a far-reaching freedom of expression, but it does not imply that the Swedish government or myself support the opinions expressed. Paludan set fire to the holy book following an hour-long rant in which he attacked Islam and immigration in Sweden. In retaliation, around 200 people protested outside the Swedish consulate in Istanbul.
We are here in front of Swedish embassy with our youth division to protest the act of burning Quran in front of our consulate in Sweden.
Speaking to a Swedish newspaper, Turkey's communication director Fahrettin Altun said,
"There is a difference between freedom of speech and incitement against a group of people. The Turkish constitution also guarantees freedom of expression. Burning the Quran outside the Turkish embassy has nothing to do with freedom. It's inciting violence against Muslims, including Swedish Muslims."
And Turkey's Jewish and Armenian communities also voiced their condemnation of the incident. Sweden is no stranger to Islamophobia, with mosques often targeted by arson attacks. In the last 30 years, there have been 8 different attacks on the Islamic community. In 1991, 25-year-old student from Iran was shot in the face. In 1993, 2 Somali boys were stabbed and a mosque burned down. An arson attack on Mao Mosque in 2003, with another taking place only 2 years later in 2005. In 2014, more arson attacks took place in 3 mosques. In 2017, an Islamic center was burned down. In 2022, Paludan burned a copy of the Holy Quran. Other countries, including Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Kuwait, and Pakistan, also denounced the Quran burning. The Turkish government immediately cancelled a visit by Sweden's defense minister to Ankara this Friday in protest over the hate crime.
Think of another book, but when it comes to the Quran, Islam's holy book, and hostility to Islam, they immediately call it freedom of expression and freedom of thought.
Turkey, a member of NATO for more than 70 years, continues to have reservations over Sweden's bid to join the organization over its track record in harboring terrorists. And incidents like this one continue to weaken Stockholm's already fragile relationship with Turkey. Lape Alarinoye, TRT World, London.
Tensions between Sweden and Turkey are worsening just hours after Turkey called off a visit by Sweden's defense minister to the country over anti-Turkey protests. Rasmus Paludan, a far-right politician, burned Quran, a holy book of Muslims, near the Turkish embassy in Stockholm. Paludan's protest was held under heavy police protection while he attacked Islam and immigration in Sweden. Turkey had asked Sweden to reconsider its decision to give permission to Paludan to go ahead with the protest. Turkey's defense minister had earlier said the scheduled January 27th visit by his Swedish counterpart no longer held any importance or point because Sweden continued to allow quote-unquote disgusting demonstrations against Turkey. Several Arab countries, including Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Jordan and Kuwait, denounced the Quran burning in Sweden. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation bloc said the provocative action targets Muslims, insults their sacred values, and serves as further example of the alarming level reached by Islamophobia, and asked Sweden to punish those behind the hate crime. At the same time, hundreds of protesters gathered in front of the Swedish consulate in Istanbul and set the Swedish flag ablaze. A separate protest in Ankara A crowd gathered in front of the Swedish embassy and left a black wreath in front of the embassy building with the inscription, "Say stop to Islamophobia." Sweden and its neighbor Finland are hoping to join NATO, dropping decades of military non-alignment in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But they need the consent of Turkey, who is a member of the alliance, to join. Ankara says its approval is conditional on Swedish steps to extradite people it accuses of terrorism or of having played a part in the 2016 coup attempt against Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Turkey says Sweden has not done enough to crack down on the Kurdish groups Ankara views as terrorists. Israel has seen yet another protest against its new judicial reforms. This comes just a week after thousands held demonstrations against the reforms in key cities of Israel. The unrelenting protests have brought the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government under fire. The recent protest was held on Saturday in the Israeli city of Tel Aviv. Tens of thousands of Israelis joined the demonstrations against Netanyahu's new judicial plans. Protesters say that these plans threaten the democratic checks and balances on ministers by the courts. However, the Prime Minister has dismissed the protests. He calls it a refusal by leftist opponents to accept the results of last November's election. The government formed as a result of this election says the reforms are needed for curbing the overreaching powers of activist judges. But they have drawn fierce opposition from groups, including lawyers, and raised concerns among business leaders. This is, in turn, widening the already deep political divisions in Israeli society. The protesters have raised a number of concerns regarding these reforms. They say that the future of Israeli society is at stake because of these reforms. According to them, these reforms threaten the independence of judges and weakens oversight of the government and parliament. Protesters also allege that they will undermine the rights of minorities and open the door to more corruption. Among those protesting was former Prime Minister and opposition leader Yair Lapid.
People who love the country have come here today to defend its democracy, to defend its courts, to defend the idea of coexistence and of common good. There are people who love Israel, who come to demonstrate for a democratic Jewish state according to the values of the Declaration of Independence. And we will not give up until we win.
The reforms introduced by the government tighten government control over judicial appointments. They also limit the Supreme Court's powers to review government decisions. The recent protest comes days after the Supreme Court ordered Netanyahu to fire the Interior Minister over a recent tax conviction. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.